There's a monster under my bed and at my window there's a dragon. I accepted the challenge, it turned me into a savage. I broke a promise to myself again. I don't know why.
Oops, I had a fail. One moment.
There's a monster under my bed and at my window there's a dragon. I accepted the challenge, it turned me into a savage. I broke a promise to myself again. I don't know why I am so vulnerable. They try to help but I won't let them in. I guess rock bottom's where I'm comfortable. Both my feet planted when most people would've panicked. I embraced the storm, I found beauty in what was damaged. I'm not afraid of the boogeyman. Instead I look at him like he's a friend. There's not a monster out there in the world that's scarier than the one that's within. There's a creature in my closet, I can hear him rumbling around. The demon screaming in the distance creates such a humbling sound. The monster that's outside my window, he's like family to me now. The things that people are afraid of never let me down.
Not to say this no, but I'm hated so. My religious freaks say I'm the biggest beast and that I made it grow. When I spray this flow, I created mo. Creatures are like when I heat up the mic, I'm a breed of the night, but I'm tainted though. By the darkness I'm binded, I sparked it and shined it. They find it cause mine is woe. But that they label me a demon seed, wanna disable, need to see them bleed, hinder me fatally and see them grieve, no. You would not believe the creature inside me if you deceive Khalifa's lively. We disagree when people defy me or try to take his. Whatever the fuckery toward them, you don't wanna wake this. You forsake his, what is sacred, then it's over no matter what your faith is. I'm a creature.
There's a creature in my closet, I can hear him rumbling around. The demon screaming in the distance creates such a humbling sound. The monster that's outside my window, he's like family to me now. The things that people are afraid of never let me down.
Yeah, I managed to get myself in trouble, all of this pain. Yeah, I'm damn in the double dose of liquor's always to blame. If I could keep myself sober, I keep my hands to myself. I take a shot and it's over, that's how I end up in hell. I hope I don't pass it down to my offspring. They get everything from their daddy, feel like I'm addicted to all things. There's no reason to change, gone too far now. And I'm stuck in my ways, back at the bar now. They say I'm a flirt and they right, I ain't perfect, alright. So when I'm thirsty, I'm perking and purposely searching for something that's hurting me so I just can't pack up and go, I just back out of it slow. That's how it go, I knocked the back out the hole. What next like I don't know. I think they be laughing at me, hands be grabbing at me. Feel like God let it happen to me, dab it blasphemy. And these be a dab it naturally. I think I better let it go. Either that or I gotta let it know that I can't do that.
There's a creature in my closet, I can hear him rumbling around. The demon screaming in the distance creates such a humbling sound. The monster that's outside my window, he's like family to me now. The things that people are afraid of never let me down.
Whew, apologies there. somebody decided to ask me about Easter baskets right when the music ended, so, you know, I had to deal with that. Oh, yeah, I do have one of those. I forgot about that, Constance. I'll find that in a moment. Hey, everyone. Hey, Peachy, Constance, all y'all ran. I'm doing one of those lives on a story I seen, you know. Sometimes I like to mix it up, but I also have to run and get something in a minute. Hellbent, what the hell is up? Let me see. Trying to think where I want to start with this. Constance made a thumbnail? No, I didn't know that. No, what did you say? You're having a funeral? Funeral for the channel or something? Hello, Graham. Hi, Manchester. Freedom! What's up, Mr. Nobody? So, people that are in my Discord, by the way, so I've had somebody looking at it. I just want to say this too before I start. It's pretty small. I had somebody kind of trying to help me figure something out with it yesterday. It's something screwed up with it. The settings are fucked. It's whacked. We talked about, the person that was helping me talked about just nuking it, and I'm like, well, I don't really want to do that because I still have my old one from a long time ago that I accidentally sign into sometimes. So I'm gonna have at their leisure when somebody has more time take a look at it because it is not making any sense to settings. So I hope that we can fix that when I know they get a chance, and hopefully I don't have to nuke it and start a new one. I'd rather just fix the one I have because I like it, and yeah. So please be patient with that. It's very screwed up. Oh, Catlin, I haven't seen you in a while. I was actually just wondering about you yesterday and today. I don't think I've seen you around in any chats. What up, Ghost? Yeah, I don't understand Discord much. Somebody else, actually, when I first made it, it was because people, you know, didn't have a spot they could email me, message me. So it's kind of small and it's mostly for links and stuff like that. It's a couple little chats. But Chicky actually made it. I like how she came up with the names for the rooms and everything. It was kind of creative. I like it. Anyways, yeah, it doesn't make sense. So anyways, back to today's episode. And let me see. I did want to say hi. Hi, April. You can get pre-built one. What? Really? That's kind of weird. So people actually pay for ones that are already done? Well, for me to pay for something like that, it better be cool or cheap or something like that. I wonder what are the going rates for something like that? So for mine, like some people can see some things, some they can't see, others can't see the things. Things that are supposed to have a lock don't lock, and blah blah, and so on and so forth. Everybody's in everything, and then some people can't see certain things, and it's not supposed to quite be that way. So that's what we're trying to fix and figure out what the fuck's going on. Hi, Nancy. Hi, Jaded. Depends on what you want. I just never thought of something like that. So the thing I wanted to bring up today. Oh, actually, before I even start, let me make sure. Let me go back to StreamYard. I kind of looked around the YouTubes. I didn't see anything going on. I don't want to interrupt anyone's, if somebody has something going on. I didn't see anyone live. I did kind of look a little bit. Does anyone know if anyone has anyone set up? Because I'm not trying to do it on purpose or anything, But to the best of my knowledge, I didn't see anything. Nobody live right now until later on. I think the next one I seen scheduled was Ghost at 7:05. That's the only thing I seen anyway. So I'm just making sure. And like I said, I know people are going to overlap sometimes, and that's all right and all good, but I'm not trying to do it on purpose. So let me know if I am. And let me see. Let me see. Let me do a little summary. Okay, sorry. So I was flipping through the YouTubes, and I had seen this case where this white couple, an older white couple, adopted 5 black children. And I don't know if some of you know about this story, but they got busted they were trafficking and treating them and having them work as slaves, basically, and locking them up in sheds. And it was like pretty bad. So they basically adopted children to be farmhands and literally treated them like slaves. It's pretty bad. Oh, I know everybody watches different people. I'm just saying that's the only thing I seen on the YouTubes. Like the next live I seen scheduled. Like if somebody had one at 1:30 or 2 or something, I wasn't trying to, that's what I meant by that. So you have heard that case? So they were just sentenced, and I'm like, so that got me interested, and I started looking into it, and I found a bunch of clips on it. What I was trying to do the last 3 days is actually find the trial. Nowhere on YouTube, Google, or anywhere I've searched high and low, even on the court website, I cannot find the trial. I can only find clips. It's driving me crazy. Did anyone else get to see that trial? Hello, Princess Tater Tot. Okay, so you've seen about that. So I thought I'd play clips of it. Now, I had some articles on it, and it actually is pretty historic when they were sentenced, because it's the first time, that they got sentenced for trafficking at a state level. It's usually federal. Yeah, it's pretty horrible. So I might do I'm trying to think how I want to summarize. I have a million tabs open right now. I think it was Law and Crime I just found, and it was maybe yesterday. They just posted a whole summary on it, so I might start with that first. I got a couple articles on it. And then I just opened my own live. Whoops. I can only mainly find a bunch of clips of it, no matter what I do. Okay, that's weird. I guess I had a bunch of my own lives open, so I'm going to close that. So basically, this is another case of general awareness, because of the due diligence of neighbors seeing these kids doing farm slave work, they made calls, which ultimately led to their rescue. Just like the other case I showed you. Oh, here's the one I want to show first. Law and Crime did a good summary of it, so I'll probably play that one first and maybe stop for commentary. And if there's anyone that want to come up and comment with me, let me know in the chat. Let's see. I found the one I want, so I'm going to pull it up. I have 8,000 tabs open. Let me see. I tried to be ready, and I have so many open now, and that almost makes it more difficult to find what I'm looking for. All right. Sidebar. That's the one, I think. Yep. The judge was not too happy with these people. Yep, this is it. The Sissonville couple. So what it was, April, they adopted 5 children. 2 of the oldest ones were kept locked in a shed. Another one was kept in a loft, a 9-year-old. And there was other ones locked inside the house, and some were locked outside in a shed. And then for some reason, the younger kid, they hadn't started, doing anything bad yet, but they were teaching her horrible things, like to laugh at the others and make fun of them. She was 5 years old. So either way, they're all going to be like needing lots of therapy and everything. And they're never getting out of jail. But this one's going to kind of summarize it. I'll stop here and there. Let me get that off there. Oh, it's close to where you live. So actually, they started out, they originally adopted the kids. They were living in Minnesota. Then they adopted the kids from a homeless shelter for troubled homeless and youth. And then they moved to Washington State on an 80-acre ranch. And I think it's called Okanagan County. And it's 27 miles from the Canadian border, from what I found. And then they were getting some calls made on them. They were kind of trying to dodge the child welfare that was checking on them there. So they sold that ranch, and they sold it for like $725,000. Then they moved to West Virginia. So they were doing a lot of they were doing a lot of the work on the ranch. A lot of the kids, they were making them do slave work. Sometimes they were even made to dig with their bare hands. And one of the kids, when rescued, didn't even have shoes. He had blisters on his feet. They were sleeping in the shed on a concrete ground, no blankets, nothing. And one of the boys had problems mentally, and he wet himself. So all they had was a tarp on a floor in the shed and a piece of cardboard. That's what he laid on, a piece of cardboard. So after they moved, they were trying to dodge the welfare system there. Then they moved to West Virginia. I feel like they tried to pick a more isolated area, it seems like, that nobody could see. And then they got investigated for human trafficking and the child abuse there in the Washington state. But it's pretty crazy. They basically, it seems like they adopted them to be slaves. I mean, they were in modern day slavery no matter how you look at it. They made fun of them. They made racial slurs at them. They looked at their phone records and checked all their texts between each other. The words that they were calling them was racial slurs, okay? And then they want to say in the trial that the kids, the lawyer says, oh, that was their kids, that was their clubhouse. And you know what? The guy, his name was Lance. Let me see what his first name is again. Donald Lance, the one charged. Donald, yep. His brother came to his defense in trial and said, oh, that was their clubhouse. A fucking clubhouse, bro? They had to shit and piss in a bucket and they held up a sheet. They were on video camera 24/7 too in that shed. Do you know when they had to go to the bathroom, one of the kids had to hold a sheet up so the other one could go to the bathroom with privacy in a bucket behind them because they knew they were on camera. When they woke up, they were forced to stand and keep their hands on their head. On camera, they were seen doing that when they checked the surveillance. They had to stand up and put their hands on their head to keep them from falling asleep. Just stand there or they got punished. You know, hit in the head with a PVC pipe, threatened with a bullwhip. One of them tried to run away once, and what's her name there? Whitefeather. The woman's last name is Whitefeather, Jean Whitefeather. She shot a gun at one of them to scare them. So I really think they chose this to be more isolated. And may they rot in hell. They're never getting out of jail. They got hundreds of years together, and that's what they deserved. Stupid motherfuckers. Yeah. Okay, well, let's see a little of this. The judge is not too happy either, obviously.
Reprehensible.
Actually, can I just get a sound check that you hear that? I have to check all the time now because StreamYard screws up the sound now. Did you hear that? Reprehensible. Before I continue playing it, please somebody just give me a yes that y'all can hear. Yes in the chat if you can hear. Yeah, they said it was a clubhouse and there was a key in there. No, it was locked from the outside. Oh, and the only thing they fed them was peanut butter sandwiches and not enough to eat, obviously. Oh, and they didn't bathe either. When they were rescued, the girl said she hadn't washed in months. Hadn't brushed their teeth or washed in months and had the same clothes on. Who does that? They need to check more into this shit when people, I don't know. There needs to be more follow-up or something. It's just it's beyond disgusting. Okay, thank you.
Narcissistic defenses that I have ever seen in my years of trial work. And may God have mercy on your souls, because this court will not.
A West Virginia couple will spend the rest of their lives in prison after.
And I love how she just said that. I just had to say that. Because the court will not.
Adopting 5 children only to subject them to unimaginable horrors, including being locked inside of a shed for days and forced to perform grueling labor. But thanks to those who refuse to stay silent, these monsters will never walk free again. I'm going to speak with civil rights attorney Joe Richardson to
They left them in the house. In the shed. They weren't allowed in the house. They didn't even get to wash. No, they didn't get to bathe.
dive into this truly disturbing case. Welcome to Sidebar,
Yeah,
presented by
Judge
Law
rules.
and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Okay, so I'm not going to sugarcoat this for you. This is a story of a nightmare that was disguised as a home.
Yep.
It is a case that is so brutal and upsetting that it has drawn national outrage.
As it should.
Jeanne Whitefeather and Donald Lance, a white West Virginia couple, adopted 5 black children, but not to love them, no, to abuse them in what prosecutors referred to as, quote, modern-day slavery.
It was modern day slavery, and like you say, Flies, thank God that they had nosy neighbors that didn't stay silent, and that's why, I mean, I can't help but put general awareness on this again, because it seems like a lot of the series I'm doing are about, not to be funny, but general awareness, because see something, say something once again, like the last child abuse case that I mentioned, the children were rescued due to people seeing things, you know? The signs and symbols are there if you see something weird like that, like kids walking around doing work all day and never allowed to play, and that's exactly what neighbors saw. And because there was repeated calls, they were eventually caught.
Their crimes? Human trafficking, child
Exactly.
torture, forced labor, It is a level of cruelty that is so extreme. And last week,
Bullwhips and
justice
guns.
was served when these two were sentenced collectively to a punishment that exceeds 3 lifetimes, meaning they will die behind bars.
I know.
And that sentencing marked the end of a harrowing case that began back in October of 2023, when a home health worker 911 call exposed the extent of what was going on inside this house, where the children, then aged 5 to 16, were
Now, in that picture, obviously their faces are blurred out, but you can even see how thin they are. Look at how they're made to stand. They all have their arms down like that. It's almost military style. You see how they're standing in a line? Even that looks weird.
imprisoned, starved, and forced to work like, quote, slaves on the couple's rural Sissonville property. But the real story lies in what those children
Make this
endured
bigger.
and how they survived. So I want to go back to that October evening in 2023 when this house of horrors was uncovered. At 5:46 p.m. on October 2nd, a home health worker made this urgent call to the Kanawha County Sheriff's Office.
Two has 2 kids locked in an outbuilding. They've been in there for days.
And what deputies found when they responded was absolutely horrifying.
So the neighbor called because she had seen the Donald go into the shed there, just to the door and then locking it again, and she could tell that their kids were locked in there. So the cops barged in and saved them.
According to an official
weren't even
news
home.
release from the sheriff's office, quote, deputies had to force entry into the barn where they located a juvenile male
Very
and juvenile
militant.
female locked inside an approximate 20 by 14-foot room. The children had no means to exit the barn on their own, no running water, no bathroom facilities, and were obviously deprived of adequate hygienic care and food. But the horror didn't end there. Inside the main house, deputies made another startling discovery. According to the release, at the main residence, deputies located another small child locked inside alone. The child was observed in an unprotected loft approximately 15 feet high. So Lance and Whitefeather, they later arrived, were subsequently arrested, hit with a felony charge of gross child neglect of a child, resulting in the substantial risk of injury. Later, the charges were upgraded when they were dealt with a whopping 20-count indictment, including human trafficking, child abuse, using a minor for labor. By the time they stood trial, they faced 35 counts. And before we go any further into this, I want to bring on friend of the show, civil rights attorney Joe Richardson. Joe, thanks so much for coming on. This is such a terrible case. Initial impressions, initial thoughts on this one?
Oh my gosh, where do you even go? I mean, it's clear that these children were treated subhumanly in a way where there's no gray area. There's no, there's no two ways about it. There's so much that doesn't make sense here, particularly as it pertains to the idea that someone has actually been adopted and therefore you're supposed to care for these siblings and care for these kids and give them something that they're missing. And there's no two ways about what actually was happening to them, because we saw what we saw between the video, the things at the house.
Now, if you look at that picture right there on the screen, that's the video surveillance that they kept on the children. That's the floor that they slept on, a concrete floor, again, with nothing. When these kids had to go to the bathroom, one would hold a sheet up for privacy so the other could go in a bucket or a camper-style toilet, either way. No facility, no running water, no teeth brushing again, no bathing, same clothes every day. That's how they had to go to the bathroom. While somebody's watching you. You sick fucks.
Just problem all the way around, and that they're treated subhumanly. And the only way to describe it is, yes, they're treated like slaves.
What are the civil rights laws that are triggered here? Because again, you don't see these kind of allegations very often, at least from my perspective, in child abuse cases.
Yeah, I mean, boy, where do you start? So theoretically, what you can argue are that the civil rights of these children basically have been taken by their parents. It's kind of strange because you don't normally see it. Normally,
sorry to stop it again, but I need to point out, see how the children just woke up off their concrete tarp. And again, they also had no heat, fan, air conditioning in this shed. They have to stand when they wake and put their hands on their heads. I mean, these kids are treated worse than adults in prison. You know what I mean? Prison would be much better than it. This is worse than prison. And these are children that you adopted from a youth center, and they had nobody, and you were supposed to protect and love them, and you subject them to this. Imagine coming from a shelter or an orphanage, and this is what you're given, thinking you're going to a home to be loved. This is fucked up.
The allegations are the criminal side allegations against the parents related to child abuse, related to child neglect, and things
Imagine
like
waking
that.
up
But
like
is
that?
there a way to argue that the children had liberty taken away from them and those types of things in a case that would be against the parents? Well, that's not going to go very far. But could something be said about the agencies that were supposed to be looking after them? If they find information that would demonstrate it, they've been investigated for a while. They had been investigated for a while in the previous place that they lived. Is there potential for there to be something brought because these particular folks missed the ball?
Well, here's the thing, right? Mm-hmm. These parents are understanding past home studies, adoption screenings, homeschooling the kids. Is there a problem in the vetting process?
Also, the homeschooling part, they never got any education. That was a lie. She didn't homeschool. That's another case. Just like a lot of cases where they've been saying they're homeschooling them and that there's nothing being done. That's another thing that should be, I feel like maybe, not to point anyone out, but it's like what monitoring is in place for that, where a lot of times we know that the teachers, the nurses, the officers at school, they're taught to look out for the signs and symbols. I know I keep saying that, but I'm not going to stop now because they are the real signs and symbols. We heard that term so much in the general awareness, but this is the real general awareness. This is the real signs and symbols. These are the things to look out for where they don't get, there's at home, it's different,
There's an argument that there's a problem in the vetting process, but at the very least, there were investigations once they had the children. There were already claims that there were problems that way. And normally, though, it's harder to get a public entity, like it would be the state, a state agency, a county agency for liability unless they breach a mandatory duty that is statutory.
Actually, to answer your question, they had cameras on them to make sure they didn't escape, correct? So they were recording them to make sure they were doing what they're supposed to do. And they knew the camera was on them at all times. That's why they would stand. They were so scared that they would immediately upon waking up in the morning, their torture already started. They had to, you saw what happened. They stood right up and put their hands on their head because they were that scared. And even though they're free now and getting all the help, that's going to take a long time. I mean, well, they're never going to get fully over it. But, I mean, that's going to have a great impact on even how they wake up still, when you've been done that way for so long.
So you can't just sue them for garden variety common law negligence. But if you can show that they had some obligation in the law statutorily that they did not meet, then maybe you have something there, and it would certainly be worth looking at in this stage.
By the way, we were able to find criminal histories for both Whitefeather and Lance on TruthFinder, the powerful background checker. So we just put in their names and state, West Virginia, located their profiles in just a few seconds. And under their criminal histories, we found these charges for child neglect. Now, Law and Crime, we partner with TruthFinder. We use it to get details on people involved in our stories. But even if you don't work in true crime, this can be an excellent resource to give you some peace of mind. It's one of the just go to truthfinder.com/LC sidebar. So let's go now to January's explosive trial. So prosecutors laid out a disturbing pattern of racial targeting and abuse. And the evidence showed that they adopted these children from a Minnesota homeless shelter before moving them across state lines to Washington and then West Virginia, where the abuse had escalated. And jurors even saw damning proof of forced labor and psychological torture, including surveillance footage showing children being punished by standing motionless for hours with their hands on their heads. Now, what were the defense's claims? Well, Whitefeather's attorney, Mark Plants, called the shed where the deputies found the malnourished children a, quote, teen clubhouse. And I want you to listen to this argument from a preliminary hearing.
There's a kid inside, and the 14 and 16 want their teenage clubhouse. They go down there and play around.
Now, this
clubhouse. I'd hate that job being a lawyer and having to do that. You know what I mean? How can you look at the surveillance and do that? I don't know how lawyers do it. Does that look like a clubhouse? Does it look like they're having fun? How can you even say that lie? I don't even understand. But besides the point, before I start the video again, I forgot the classic.
Fair use. 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 Fair use.
Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing.
Fair use. Fair use.
All right, that's enough of that. I probably should have done that earlier. I am using, of course, law and crime shit, so. Alrighty then.
Explanation collapsed under scrutiny because the 911 caller directly contradicted Plants, testifying she saw Lance lock the children inside. Neighbors also took the stand, describing how they'd suspected abuse from the moment the family moved into the neighborhood. One emotional witness explained why she contacted Child Protective Services.
I was afraid that they would.
Just to be clear, this is one of the neighbors, and she saw the signs and symbols, and because she's one of the reasons they're free. Persistent calling.
Move away, and those little kids, nobody would be there to help them.
And when Whitefeather and Lance took the stand, their testimony painted a starkly different picture. Whitefeather claimed she was a devoted mother who cooked, cleaned, did most of the farm work herself. She denied all abuse allegations, doubling down on the teen hangout story.
I'm his mommy. I mean, they can disown me, but I will never disown them. As far as I'm concerned, they're my children.
Huh. Hear that shit? And all they were fed, according to them, was peanut butter sandwiches, and not that much, as you can see.
You love all your children.
I love all my children.
Well, you
And
know,
when Donald Lance took the stand, he painted himself and Whitefeather as overwhelmed parents simply trying their best, explained that one of the couple's children had mental health issues that they were trying to manage. But the jury
locking him in
had
the
already
shed?
seen damning evidence that told a very different story, including text messages where the couple referred to their black children as, and I'm very sorry to say this, monkeys. That's what they said. Mocked them, discussed physical punishment. Don't you know that digital evidence really
let me go back to that. I'm going to see if I can see that text.
As I'm very sorry to say this.
I just want to read the text. Let me see that. So I'm going to read what I can see on this. One of them says, sorry for all the griping. I know you got enough going on with the 3 monkeys. I'm really sick right now, and I'm just irritated that these kids are such pigs and don't give a huge thing for me. If everyone is moving to the new house, that's all I can see on that one. But you can clearly see it in their records. And this was 7/17/2003. 3 monkeys. They're such pigs. Okay. Does that sound like a loving mother?
That's what they said.
Stupid
Mocked
bitch.
them, discussed physical punishments. Don't you know that digital evidence really hard to argue against? And in one particularly disturbing exchange, they used the initials PB to describe one child, meaning P-boy, P-brain, psycho boy. Here's how Lance attempted to explain these methods.
So one of the children had a wedding problem, and what do? Make him sleep on a concrete floor on a tarp and refer to him as P-boy and not get him any of the help he needs. Like it's his fault.
You know, after the 100th time that your 10 to 13-year-old kid, you know, who wets his pants, you know, it gets time. It takes time. You have to get him cleaned up, change his clothes. And
How do you get them cleaned up and change their clothes when they were wearing the same clothes for months at a time and they weren't even allowed to bathe or brush their teeth? So that's a bullshit lie. They weren't even allowed in the house to use facilities, you fuck. Sorry about my language.
or gets clothes changed, and it gets frustrating.
Joe, back to you. I mean, what do you want to hit first? The surveillance footage, the witnesses, the text messages? Was it a foregone conclusion that they were going to be convicted of a lot of these charges?
Yeah, it actually was, because they had the receipts. as folks like to say so much. They were able to use these guys' own camera footage. You know what I mean? No, this is your footage. And of course, from the very beginning, neighbors saw that there were some things that were going on that shouldn't be going on. And then texts that can't be, you know, sometimes people say, well, you text without context. Well, you've got full conversations where they're calling these kids out of their name. They're calling these kids something that they shouldn't be calling them if they actually care about them. So they're really looking through the window actions, their own words, the things that they're saying that there's no gray area for. It's one thing if you're a little hard on, they say you're teaching them discipline. Are you teaching them discipline by calling them monkeys? What discipline are you teaching by having them? Discipline are you teaching by them not being able to go to the bathroom? There's no excuse for it and there's no gray area for it. So they were going to get convicted.
You heard it. They had to stand for like that for hours with their hands on their head. Hours.
Tough case to defend. I mean, my understanding. So why do you think they took the stand?
I guess they figured they wouldn't be any worse off for having done it, but it's a continued,
ridiculous.
You know, it's up to them. Maybe it was against their attorney's advice, but it's also the potential for continued delusion, the continuation of the delusion that they've been in the entire time. So even though the evidence is damning, okay, there's still the matter of whether or not your explanation insults intelligence. By hearing him, you call it a clubhouse? You didn't have to call it a clubhouse if it wasn't on text that it was called a clubhouse, or if it wasn't on video that it was called clubhouse. Why would you make that up? We all know it's not a clubhouse. So they made a lot of bad decisions in their testimony. They probably knew they'd have the book thrown at them anyway. But even if they're going to testify, which is rare, there's a question of how you testify. And the way that they testified really insulted the jury and the judge's intelligence.
And a few things here. I mean, first of all, I got to call out the people around here, you know, the neighbors, the home health worker decided to get involved, alert CPS to what was happening. You know, Lance had made the argument that, you know, one of the children peed his pants, that this was frustrating, but these were children who were subjected to extended periods of time without even having access to a toilet, among other horrors, such as only being given peanut butter sandwiches, staying in dirty clothes. It compiled. Now, here's the thing. I want to go to the end of this case. So during closing arguments, Whitefeather's attorney argued that this was simply a case of bad parenting, that this was not racial animus. But prosecutor Madison Tuck dismantled that argument in her powerful closing argument.
I want to remind you that defendant Whitefeather and defendant Lance made a bet when they chose to move to Sissonville, West Virginia. They bet that people of West Virginia would not care if they mistreated their black children right out in front of the world. I ask you to prove them wrong. And
prove them wrong the jury did, delivering guilty verdicts on 31 of the 35 counts.
We, the jury, find the defendant Jeannie K. Whitefeather guilty beyond a reasonable doubt of human trafficking of a minor child. We, the jury, find the defendant Donald Ray Lance guilty beyond a reasonable doubt of human trafficking of a minor child.
And so the convictions included human trafficking of a minor, civil rights violations, forced child labor, severe child abuse. Whitefeather was convicted of all 19 counts against her, including civil rights violations, while Lance was convicted of 12 of the 16 counts against him. So the jury didn't find him guilty of 4 counts of civil rights violations. And when sentencing came on March 19th, the children, who are now safe in foster care, faced their tormentors. And their words cut through the courtroom, with one child saying, "Don't call her my mother, please. That's my only request to you. Her name is Jeanne or Miss Whitefeather." Another child saying, "I will be something amazing. I will be strong and beautiful. You will always be exactly what you are, horrible." Judge Mary Claire Ackers delivered the final blow, sentencing Whitefeather to 250.
Oh, sorry about that. So one of the children actually made a request that during the trial, I know that they can't do this, but I still like where they went with this. One of the children requested that during the trial, they are made to stand with their hands on their head like they did to them. And I thought that was good, but they wouldn't do that. I don't blame
years
them.
behind bars, and Lance to 160 years behind bars.
And instead of apologizing today, because you never have said you're sorry, even though, Miss Whitefeather, you say you made some mistakes, but you're not sorry for them. And Mr. Lance, I didn't hear you apologize either when you had the opportunity. But what you did do was put on one of the most reprehensible, narcissistic defenses that I have ever seen in my years of trial work.
Yep.
And may God have mercy on your souls, because this court will not.
Now, the couple was also ordered to pay $280,000.
Take that, bitch. Yeah, they're ordered each to pay $280,000 in restitution to each of the children. Hiya, Mom. Okay.
$1,000 each in restitution for the children's future therapy and medical care. Joe, why do you think that they were convicted, and why do you think Lance wasn't convicted across the board? I find it interesting in these kinds of cases when the evidence is so bad and egregious that if you have a jury who doesn't just automatically convict across the board, to me it signals they carefully looked at the evidence, and that makes their decision even more supported, even stronger. But why do you think they were convicted, and why do you think he wasn't convicted of some of those civil rights violations?
Well, clearly they were thoughtful, right? And so it would be, no one would have questioned this if they just said, listen, let's just sit around and have a lollipop and just find these guys guilty on everything. But they followed where the evidence took them, compared it to the elements of each of the causes of action. And it may be because of some level of decreased involvement as it pertains to a particular thing that lends to the civil rights cause of action itself, that they didn't get dad on all of those elements. Maybe one or two people on the jury weren't quite as sure. I am certain there might have been a couple of people who've been like, gosh, we can convict them of this. But technically speaking, as it pertains to this cause of action related to the civil rights violations, for what we saw, maybe we saw Mom Whitefeather here, but we didn't see Lance here with this and this particular thing. So a little.
I wouldn't refer to her as Mom. Anyways, yeah, they got the max. So just to be eligible for parole, which I don't think it's ever going to happen, I think from my recollection, he would have to be 101. He'd have to live to be 101 just to make it to be eligible. And she'd have to live to be 116 to be eligible. So they're never getting out of jail. And Catlin, if you're slamming dishes around, you better keep it quiet, okay?
Little bit technical, but it also shows how thoughtful they were.
When you hear a combined 375-year prison sentence, my understanding is maybe life in prison is just not an automatic punishment for these charges, but you combine all the convictions together, right? And that's how you come up with that number. What does that significance of that number mean to you? Because a lot of people say, 100 years in prison, 200 years in prison, 160 years in prison. Like, we look at life in prison, but sometimes the number is more impactful than just saying life in prison. There's something about that number.
Yep.
What did you take away from that, from the amount of time they're going to be behind bars?
Well, it shows that what they did was egregious, right? And it's recognized as egregious by the judge. I believe, as it pertains to both of them, and I don't want to get them mixed up, that theoretically they could qualify for parole. It would be many decades down the road, and I don't know that they actually will.
Good luck with that.
But it's also a technical formula as well. You're at X number of years.
Hey, Pink, I know you like the fight stuff better, but I like to mix it up every now and then. But thank you. I appreciate your opinion, Pink Bow.
Based on this, you could qualify.
Oh, actually, I did want to say this while I had it stopped. So even though they're in prison, if you think about it, they're going to be treated way better than they treated the children. They're going to have a bed, a toilet, water. You know what I'm saying? Like, what they did to those kids, they're going to get treated way better, even being in prison, because they have more rights in prison than they gave the children. If you think about it that way, you know what I mean?
For parole after Y number of years. So there's a technical formula component, but the number of years that acts that is several hundred years.
Oh, you did?
First of all, speaks to two things. First of all, that it's totally
Very
egregious.
disturbing.
Second of all, that there's no way, even if there was a technical possibility of getting parole at some point before they were dead, it's not going to happen.
How does, when you hear the kids speak, right, don't call her my mother.
Yeah,
You get
maybe
an insight
not.
into the psychological damage this did as well, right?
Yeah. These kids are never going to get over this.
Nope.
Some things that you can't get over, but you have to get through. So they'll need lifelong mental health care. That doesn't mean they can't live productive lives. That doesn't mean that they can't turn this negative situation into their own best positive outcome. But you never get over something like this. You just have to get through it a day at a time and push through and try to exact forgiveness in a situation where someone is not saying sorry and is not in a position to be or to deserve forgiveness. You've got to forgive them anyway, just so that you can live the best life you can and let them go so that you can therefore move forward. And it's very, very hard for someone that is so naturally aggrieved and has a right to be aggrieved. They've got a right to be mad for the rest of their lives, mad at the world, mad at everybody. But for them to be productive, they're going to have to find a way.
Whoa. I hadn't noticed this before. You can't see it on the screen, but behind my avatars, something just popped up and it disappeared. It said there was a case of a 340-pound woman that sat on a foster child and ended them. I didn't hear about that one, but it just popped up and then disappeared. That's very odd. Where was I going with this? I just messed it up. The kids... Also, one thing I kind of felt bad about, I heard that they're all, to the best of my knowledge anyway, in separate homes. And that kind of was sad for me because all they had was each other. I guess I was kind of wishing that somebody could take them all. I know that's not very likely to happen, but I do hope that wherever they are, they're not too far apart from each other. And I hope that they arrange that they can still see each other, you know what I mean? Because I feel kind of sorry. Like, I know they're obviously getting the help they need and everything like that, but I'm just hoping they get to visit with each other and, because I know how that is, Okay, I did mess this up, so it's close to the end before I play other clips. All I could find was random clips of trial. I tried high and low for days to find this whole trial. I cannot locate it, and I really, really wanted to see it.
Going to be amazing. We wish them nothing but success and love and the best, but really, you got to also call out the people around them who refused to look away and spoke out and testified and called 911. So listen, Joe Richardson, tough case. Thank you so much for taking the time. It was great seeing you.
Good seeing you, Jesse. Thanks much.
And that's all we have for you.
So that's enough of that one. I'm going to drop that one. I'm going to come back over here. But yeah, I tried so hard to find this whole thing. I couldn't find it anywhere. If anyone knows where I can find it, that would be great. I'm interested in watching it. So, other than that, I could just find clips and articles on it that I could read. One thing I found that was pretty important was that this case, it was the first time in state history where human trafficking was actually charged. So the charge alone was historical. I guess in 2012, a law was passed, but in 2017, it was amended. So it made it easier for the white feathers to get a conviction. It's usually handled at the federal level, so that's why it was pretty historical. Okay, let's see if we can hear this one. I don't remember. Like I said, I just put up a bunch of random clips.
The human trafficking, child abuse, and forced labor trial for Sissonville couple Jeannie Whitefeather and Donald Lance continues now tomorrow.
But since there's no court today, Anna Saunders, who's been covering this for us, joins us live in the studio. And Anna, this has been an absolutely heartbreaking to watch as more information unfolds. Can you now bring us up to speed on all of the major developments that we know from the court so far?
Well, Peyton, Gina, this trial now heads into week 2, and the state has still not rested its complex case, as we have heard from neighbors, police, experts, and now we're to the point where we are hearing from the children victims. But we do want to warn you, some of the footage we've seen in court so far is difficult to watch.
It's been 4 days of emotional testimony and hard to watch evidence, all leading up to one of the victims, the oldest child, taking the stand on Friday as she detailed years of abuse from Whitefeather and Lance, taking us all the way to the moment she and her brother were found locked in that Sissonville shed in October of 2023. But it's hard to say where this situation would be today had it not been for the first 5 people who took the stand on Tuesday, the Sissonville neighbors and a home health worker. They immediately noticed in May of 2023 when Whitefeather and Lance moved in that something was not right and
thank God for them, all of them.
Began calling CPS and law enforcement about it.
I was afraid that they would move away and those little kids, nobody would be there to help them.
To the neighbors,
like she said, she was afraid they would move away and nobody would be there to help them. That's actually what they already did. Like I said earlier, they had first adopted them. They were living in Minnesota. They adopted all 5 of them from a homeless shelter, right? And then they moved to Washington State on an 80-acre ranch. It was close to the Canadian border, like 27 miles from the Canadian border. And when people started noticing things and making calls, that's when they sold their ranch and they moved to West Virginia. And I think they picked that because it was more isolated. You know, less neighbors. You could see how the setup of that yard is in some of the clips. You know, the shed's out in the woods where they made them sleep basically out in, you know, like we seen out in the shed in the woods. But on the farm property, when they were working there, that's when, you know, people were calling, saying they seen things. They were carrying things on their, you know, buckets. They did all the farm work. They took care of the animals. They were forced to dig holes with their hands sometimes. Not even a shovel. Fucking assholes.
Was the children's work in the yard and the standing in a line in all weather that seemed inappropriate for their ages. They said the work never came with any kind of play or break, and one of them even confronted Lance about it, which he denied, saying that they did play. And then when the neighbors began suspecting that 2 of them were locked in a shed, it was this October 2nd, 2023 call to the non-emergency line from home health worker Candace Hilbert that brought police to the shed.
He has 2 kids locked in an outbuilding. They've been in there for days.
And then the jury heard from police officers involved, from the deputy who did the initial check and helped break down the locked shed door to lead investigator Lieutenant Anna Pyle with the Kanawha County Sheriff's Office, who walked us through 5 days of camera footage of the children. Lance and Whitefeather kept motion-activated Arlo cameras on the children, one in the shed on the 14-year-old boy and 16-year-old girl, and one in a room upstairs with no bed, only a tarp floor that stayed on the 9-year-old girl and 11-year-old boy.
A tarped floor. That's where those 2 stayed, on that tarped floor. So you got those 2 there and then the other 2 in the shed. And then they had a 5-year-old that they, I guess, were not abusing. Well, it still was, just in a different way. She wasn't getting the treatment that they were. It sounded like she went out to church and such, because when they came home, they had said that the 5-year-old was out with people from church. They were teaching her to laugh and taunt the other kids, though. You know, like, I don't know, it's just so psychologically disturbing. So here he is complaining in court about having to clean them up when they wet themselves, because you got to wash them up and clean them up. Okay, does it look like it? Imagine, I mean, people treat their animals better than this, you know, when you, puppies and everything, you know, what, a tarp floor?
The video showed a daily routine of waking up early and being forced to stand with hands on head.
Lips, I did that one recently too. That was kind of where I got the idea to do the Signs and Symbols General Awareness series, because I brought that case out recently too. That one was absolutely appalling. And I'm looking out for when she goes to court too, because I want to be able to stream that. So yeah, I got my eye on that case.
Unable to change or shower, receiving only peanut butter sandwiches to eat before going back to bed on the floor. In the shed, the teens used a camper toilet, holding a sheet up for each other to shield the other from the camera. Lieutenant Pyle said she first began hearing about this in August before the shed discovery, but testified could never quite get a hold of a CPS worker to follow up.
There was a contact made with a worker once, but there was no further contact to coordinate going and making a visit to the residents together.
The jury.
Oh, once again, another CPS failure. They didn't follow up. And in court, one of those CPS workers, the one she's talking about, went on the stand in a jumpsuit. So the CPS worker herself is in jail. I have no idea why, but that might be on this clip or one of the other ones. So I wonder why she went to jail.
Jury saw days of video the Arlo camera saved, including the moments deputies busted in the door on the shed on October 2nd.
Imagine.
The children were turned over to Child Protective Services. And
Imagine how they felt when the cop came in like that and busted them out and rescued them. Imagine how good
Lance
they
and
must have felt.
Whitefeather got back with 2 of the children that night. They were later arrested. But that was just the beginning of their charges and the investigation. On Friday, the jury got an inside look at Whitefeather's cell phone. This included text messages between...
Here's a text message. I paused it because I want to be able to read it. She says, "Tell your boys knock it off or me and spray bottle coming up." And the children also reported that she used pepper spray on them. Pepper spray on their face.
She and Lance, where they referred to the kids as...
Oh, they got benefits, all right. I'm sorry to do the stop again. I know I'm trying to work on not doing that, but then I see questions and stuff, and I want to answer that. They received... Let me see. I wrote that down somewhere. They received over $3,000 in adoption payment assistance. Over $300,000. I never knew they got so much.
Monkey.
This one says, "I made a big noise in there when I knocked, blah, blah." It's blanked out. "Sorry, but he deserved it." And they fried themselves, too, with all their own evidence with the text messages. I mean, it's all there. You can't hide all that stuff. And then they did their own video footage, surveillance, which they were able to fry them with that, too.
And pigs. Often Lance would describe physical punishment where he said he, quote, knocked one of them. We saw one text where Lance said, quote, "Somebody didn't say thank you," and his sandwiches disappeared. We also saw more video from Whitefeather's phone from their time in Washington that also showed yelling and physical abuse from Lance. A finance expert from the West Virginia Fusion Center, Alyssa Ledbetter, also took the stand on Friday. She broke down the adoption payments Whitefeather and Lance received from Minnesota. She said in total of what they analyzed from 2019 to 2023, the two received about $318,000 in adoption support payments, but she testified this didn't tell the whole story.
Well, the assistance began in June of 2018, and I only had from June of 2019 to November of 2023. So altogether, we're missing about 18 months.
All of this leading up to the most harrowing testimony so far on Friday afternoon from someone who lived it. We are not allowed to film or record the victims who will testify in this case, but we're in the room as the teen girl, now 18, but 16 at the time, shared what her life was like both in Washington State and in Sissonville. She said life progressively got worse with Whitefeather and Lance once they moved to the ranch in Washington in 2019.
I'm going to back that up so you can see that picture again, and look what's in his hand. Let me see if I can get it in just the right spot. Yep, right there. See what he's holding right here? A PVC pipe. It was reported, too, that he struck one of the kids in the head with that PVC pipe. That's what he's beating them with.
Whitefeather and Lance once they moved to the ranch in Washington in 2019. This is when the outdoor labor began, she said, and the physical punishments that included hits from a PVC pipe. While under a child services investigation there in Washington, eventually they moved to Sissonville, but she did not know why. She talked about how CBS was called soon after they arrived in West Virginia, and she detailed...
Actually, Pink Bow, are you saying you don't care about the case or somebody in the chat? I'm just curious what your thoughts are. Because I'd like to know how you feel about this.
Visit from a worker who stayed on the porch and talked to them through the screen door. The teen testified she was not honest with CPS because Lance could hear her from where she was standing. Eventually, she and her teen brother, who has several mental health disorders, were locked in a shed in August of 2023. She said she went without a shower for 2 months and never changed clothes. She went from sleeping on a mattress to the floor with a sleeping bag. Her brother slept on the concrete floor with only cardboard at his head. She said she was forced to be his babysitter, but testified he was never the dangerous, violent violent kid that Lance and Whitefeather made him out to be. She recalled the use of physical violence, pepper spray, and racial slurs from Lance and Whitefeather. She recalled also being scared when police arrived at the shed, worried that she would say something to upset Whitefeather. Some of her more emotional moments came during cross-examination by Whitefeather's attorney, Mark Plants. At one point, he referred to Whitefeather as her mother, and she quickly corrected him. He questioned why some of her interviews before this contradicted what she said on the stand, but when Tuck asked her why she felt comfortable telling the truth now, she said, "Because I know I won't have to go back to that."
Now, tomorrow morning, court is expected to get going around 8:30. Two more of the children are set to testify, and then it will be the defense's turn to present their cases. Live in the studio.
Let me see here. Gonna take that one off. Oops, one of them's playing. Let me find it. Just gotta pull up the next one. Must be this one. I have to start over again. The reason I said after is because I want to show everybody a piece, and then opinions could be after.
Accused of keeping some of them in a locked shed in Sissonville was back in court today.
Who's been
and
bothering
we got
you?
our first look into the shed where two teenagers were found at the beginning of the month.
Now, despite attempts from her attorney to reduce Jeannie Whitefeather's bond, it will remain at $200,000. Anna Saunders joins us live in the studio to walk us through what was argued. Anna?
That's right. Whitefeather's new attorney, Mark Plants, came to court today with pictures of the shed in Sissonville, calling it a teen clubhouse and hangout. He also brought Whitefeather's brother, who took these photos and testified there was a key found in the shed a week and a half later that would have allowed the children to get out. These claims, though, not enough for Judge Mary Claire Akers to lessen the bond. In an unusual move for a bond hearing, Jeannie Whitefeather's new defense attorney, Mark Plants, called a witness to the stand, Whitefeather's brother, to make the argument that the case where children were found locked in a barn in Sissonville has been misrepresented.
On its face, sounds atrocious. However, there are two sides to every story.
Whitefeather's brother, Mark Hughes, also from Washington State but recently moved to Chesapeake, Ohio, testified that on the phone, Whitefeather told him there was a key in the shed for the kids to let themselves out. A week and a half after Whitefeather and her husband were arrested, Hughes visited the shed and took these photos of the inside, including this one showing a key on the table.
That is the key, exactly how we found it. And when I saw it, I went, holy crap, is that really the key to this door? And how could the police possibly have gone through this and not noticed this key 3 feet from the door?
I'm calling bullshit. So obviously that's the adopted father's brother coming to his defense, trying to say that he found the key as soon as he walked in, trying to make it sound like they weren't locked in the shed. So you're going to tell me you viewed all that evidence, saw children waking up and standing with their hands on their head for hours, going in a porta potty and all that. That's just a clubhouse. Sure, bro. And that the key was in there the whole time. Okay. I call he planted that there. But either way, there's too much other evidence and all the other stuff. You know what I'm saying? That's bullshit. I think he planted it. But either way, there's way too much evidence. You can't say that. I don't think that is, well, let me see here. Okay, thank you. You guys can take care of that. I didn't know there was a fake one. Hi, Anissa. Listen, I did say Pink Boat could come up after. It's just that to hear what I just want to, this is like kind of serious stuff. Sometimes I try to mix it up with stuff like this because I think it's important general awareness.
Assistant prosecuting attorney Fawn Cushman asking a similar question, pointing out that it had been a week and a half after the arrest had been made that these photos had been taken, alleging there was no proof this key was there the day of the arrest.
I don't know how it got there.
You planted
You
it.
have absolutely no idea the condition that the children were found in.
Okay, thank you.
Because you weren't there.
I was not there at the time, but I've spent an awful lot of time around these children.
Hughes testified.
He says he spent a lot of time around the children, but he was in another state.
Testified
Okay.
that the last time he saw the children was at the beginning of September. The children told deputies that being locked in the shed was an everyday thing. A neighbor who called 911 that day said she had witnessed them being locked inside that day and had raised several concerns prior about the children's well-being. The responding deputy recently testified that the conditions inside were repulsive, with a smell that made her eyes water.
If there was a key on the desk that allowed her to enter and exit the shed, then why were the police outside for 2 hours and had to force entry?
Plants responded by arguing the possibility that children's statements to police were not credible and that they could have gotten out the whole time.
Bullshit again. And the responding officer said the smell was so bad it made their eyes water. Again, they hadn't been months. They weren't allowed to use the facilities. They were wearing the same clothes for months. So I imagine it did smell pretty bad. And it probably did a lot of shit to their skin, too. Being in the same dirty clothes that long. Ugh. Poor things.
There's a key inside, and the 14 and 16 want their teenage clubhouse. They go down there and
Don't call it a clubhouse. They were denied basic hygiene. They weren't even allowed in the house. You want to call that shit a clubhouse? It's just, I don't know how you can even say that.
and play around. Either and a jury.
Oh
will
yeah,
make that decision.
even if they could, right.
Judge Mary Claire Akers, however, siding with the state, arguing that Whitefeather, who
Okay.
moved here about a year ago from Washington State, was a flight risk, and if she owned a house valued at $375,000 with plans to move to Beckley, finances should not be a concern.
$200,000 cash is necessary. I understand what you're saying about the strengths and weaknesses of the case, Mr. Plants, but I cannot ignore that these pictures were taken a week and a half afterwards.
Now, Donald Lance, Whitefeather's husband, was also charged with felony gross child neglect. Right now, they are considered co-defendants, but Lance has not had a court appearance since his arrest. Both cases are set to be presented to a grand.
So they were initially bonded out from what I heard, and then the judge raised it. The brother came to the rescue. The one that says it was that there was a key in there, which we know is false. Now, once again, we're going to have to test. Oh, I think it dropped it. Dang it. 1 second. And again, I really wish I could have found the whole trial. I still am very interested if anyone knows where I can find it. I really want to watch it on my own time. I would have loved to have played it, but I can only find certain clips. And after, you know, we got the prosecutors reacting to the sentence in the historic child abuse case. Let me see if I should play the other clips first, because that's pretty significant of itself. Let's see. Okay, I think I've seen that one already. I'm just going through some of what the other clips have. I basically threw up everything I could find on it. I did try so hard. Okay, that's the same one as that one. I'm just seeing what else I have here before I play that aftermath here. Let's see. Okay, yeah, we got two aftermath things. Okay, I'll go back to that one. My bad. Okay, please let me know if there's no sound, because this one's a too. Yeah, they had a camping toilet in a bucket. Let me make sure the sound's up.
I'll stand with you, Madison.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, well, what they, before I start this about the broadcast, and what they said was they weren't allowed to put the camera on them during the, you know what I mean? So I think it might, I don't know if they're separate, but they were allowed to speak and they had their testimony read. So I wanted to hear their testimony, you know what I mean? I wanted to hear like the impact of it. Okay, good, thank you.
Okay, we'll have Deborah Rusnak, DebraRusnak, Chief Snuffer, Snuffer, Madison Tuck, MAD,
So again, this is a presser afterward. They're talking about it.
SONTUCK, and Chris Krivoniak.
Their sound is often horrible.
CHRISKRIVONYAK.
See, Robbie.
So I'd like to start out by saying I could not be more proud of the work
that my office has done alongside the Kanawha County Sheriff's Office. Today, Judge Akers sentenced Donald Lance to a term of up to 160 years and Jeannie Whitefeather to a term of up to 215 injury. The court further ordered each of those defendants to pay $280,000 each in restitution. You know, I've said before, and I'm going to say it again, our attorneys and staff work the most difficult cases, and especially those involving child victims. We are all grateful that the court handed down the sentence that we had all hoped for. It nearly ensures that neither of these defendants will ever breathe free air again. The resilience of children involved in this case is absolutely astounding.
They'll still be treated better in
My
jail.
heart goes out to them, and I'm grateful that my attorneys and the members of the Kanawha County Sheriff's Office are dedicated to the pursuit of justice and dedicated to doing the right thing every time. The outcome of this case is a victory for the citizens of Kanawha County and a victory for justice. I think my attorneys, Madison Tuck and Chris Krabaniak, have a couple of words as well.
Thanks, Bossy. We do appreciate everybody's assistance in this case. I want to thank Ms. Rusnak and the office for providing the resources we needed to take on this case. It meant we had to shuffle around a lot of people and a lot of assets to let us focus on it. I want to also thank the Sheriff's Department. They put together a solid case that enabled us to take it from there and prosecute. But they also stayed with us and continued to work on the case as we needed or as they needed. And we couldn't have done it without them. The West Virginia Fusion Center was key. This case was had so much data and so many pages of information. Jack Lucart's shop at the Fusion Center was instrumental in helping us get through the digital data and to understand the finances. Also, Dr. David Clayman provided expert assistance, and we appreciate his help as well because we were dealing with kids and fragile kids at that, and he provided the guidance we needed to deal with them appropriately. So, thank you, everybody.
One of the reasons why I decided to become an assistant prosecutor is because I wanted to help children. I am so grateful for the opportunity to work with the children in this case. They are so wonderful, so smart, so funny. They are going to do amazing things in this world, and I'm so grateful to be a part of getting some semblance of justice for them after they experience all of this that they experienced. And I'm so grateful to Judge Akers for the way that she allowed the children to take their time and to give their victim impact statements in ways that suited each of them. And I will forever be glad that I was able to be a part of this.
Chief Snuffer, I think we'd like to hear from you as well, please.
Thank you all for coming. We're very proud of the work of our patrol division, our detective bureau. We work really well with the prosecutor's office. We have a good team. We're very, very happy with the outcome of this trial. It was a very tragic thing for those of you that were following. There were some very tragic things that occurred to those children, and we're very happy with the Judge Akers.
Again, you know, like with the aftermath of it, like I said, the best knowledge I could find is that all 5 are in separate homes. Again, I hope they're not far apart from each other. I hope they can find homes that, you know, might potentially adopt them, keep them so they don't have to keep shuffling around. I know they'll probably be monitored closely because of this case kind of obviously became high profile, so I'm sure they'll keep a close eye on them and they're not going to be subjected to shit like that anymore. But I just hope they can still communicate with each other, see with each other, visit with each other, because it sucks when everyone gets split up.
Decision today, her sentencing. Thank you.
Well, the oldest is 18 now.
Questions, if there are any.
Oh,
Today, the
you're talking about
children
something
are
else, my bad.
18, 16, 13, and 10 years old.
you have the names? She also had a letter today, so.
She's 9 years old.
How did y'all calculate the restitution?
So by my calculation,
Okay, these press conferences suck because their mics suck. Let me see if I could do the closed caption, and that worked before. Let me see if this works, and I made it really large. Let me undo the pin comment. Let's see. Because I can barely hear it. I know you guys can't hear it. Subtitles. I think I was able to pick a size here. Oh yeah, I have it on 200. Let's see what 300 looks like. 400. Now let's try 400. Let's see if this works.
regulations, and I can give a brief breakdown. Each human trafficking count faces a 5 to 20-year prison sentence. That's an indeterminate sentence, as are most of these, with the exception of these civil rights violations.
Yep.
Each of the civil rights violations are up to 10 years each. The judge did sentence them to the max of 10 on each.
I love that,
Use of
Judge.
Minor child and forced labor charges are 3 to 15 years each. The gross child neglect charges are 1 to 5 years each. And the child abuse caused bodily injury are 1 to 5 years each as well. By my calculations, which I'm terrible at math, so I'm going to qualify that here, Donald Lance will receive a sentence of 36 to 160 years, and Jeannie Whitefeather is 49 to 215 years. The low number would be the parole eligibility date.
I'm sorry, I was asking about the 280,000, I think each.
I'm sorry, the restitution.
Yeah, how did that?
You want to talk about it?
I can.
Yeah.
So for restitution, we looked at the likelihood that the kids might need some treatment or counseling or medical treatment in the future. And we just tried to run numbers that were reasonable based on the circumstances, but we took the cost of a visit to the doctor and assumed a certain number per year over a period of years, and that's how we came up with the number. But it's forecasting likely expenses that they'll face in the future.
Here's the thing, though. They're ordered to pay $280,000 each to each children. Now times 5. I don't understand when in cases like this, how's that going to happen? Now I know when they originally, I don't know what their house sold for, because I think the brother took care of that to bond them out maybe the first time, but when they sold their ranch before they moved to West Virginia, they sold it for $725,000, right? And for all the child adoption assistance, which I didn't know people got so much money, which is why probably they took so many in anyway. They probably did it for the money and to make them slave labor. But they got over $300,000 for adoption assistant payments. Did they have anything in the bank? These are my questions. I have no idea because I don't know what their West Virginia home cost. How are they going to come up with $280,000 each? I don't know if they had anything, or what their house sold for. The bond money, I have no idea. But I just always wonder how people in prison going to do that, Anyone have any ideas?
And then, how?
Hey, SG, this is a good one.
Heard the news and the sentencing come down. What was you guys' reaction for Madison first?
Oh, whoops, sorry.
I felt happy that the system worked the way that I know that it can, the way that I come to work every day and try to participate in. It made me hopeful for the future, for the children, and for West Virginia, a state that I love.
Yeah, those are big sentences. And the conduct was unique, an extra, it reached a level that we don't often see in ways that we don't usually see. So I was impressed with the way the judge compared it to other crimes that she's run into and that we run into, and explained to the defendants that this is just as bad. When you look at why they did what they did and how they did those things, I think they earned the sentences they received.
And then for Anna, you were there when this all happened. You were there on October 2023 when you knocked down these doors and particularly saved children. What was your reaction when you heard the news after testifying, going through this whole process and seeing it all? Just to clarify, our road patrol and Detective Alford were there when they actually made entry and encountered the first two children. And I was doing some paperwork, doing the search warrant, so I arrived later. But after that, a lot of my involvement included watching some Arlo videos that were really hard to watch. I know the jury and the media saw those videos. It was very, very hard to watch. So in the end, I kind of echo what Madison said. I feel that justice was served. So I was happy with what Judge Akers did.
I know at the time of the trial, the oldest boy was receiving inpatient mental health treatment. So after the same.
I'm not
I
going
see.
to discuss that. Any other questions? You know, I think Madison really summed it all up.
Oh,
when she
wow.
said, this is why we come to work every day.
I love baby
Because
goats.
we care about this county. We care about the people in it. We don't care if we work nights or weekends. We don't care if it takes 24-hour work days. We will do what it takes to secure these types of verdicts, to make sure that we are protecting the people of this county. Thank you, guys.
We also have Madison Tuck, Madison and Chris.
Oop, I was muted. I said, okay, I'm switching to a different one. The last one for this. And I had another one playing in my ear. So let's see what this one is. I think it's like an interview.
And welcome back here to ARC Appalachia. I have with me Eyewitness News reporter Anna Saunders joining me to talk about the...
So this is West Virginia reporter discussing the aftermath of the child abuse human trafficking trial.
Reporting that she's done over the last 3 weeks on the Kanawha County trial of Jeannie Whitefeather and Donald
I thought you were going to use your
Anna,
other
this has been quite
account.
I mean, you were on this thing from the very beginning in the courtroom.
Yeah, it
every
is really
single
sickening.
day. Ended up making history in the state of West Virginia, the way that this all...
When this is over, I'll check again my list, like I said, of the block words, but I thought I already handled it. But yeah, it's absolutely disgusting. Okay, this is the last one. I can't believe I hadn't heard about it before when I found it the other day, so that's why I wanted to bring it up in my general awareness series.
all played out. What was it like for you in the courtroom each day for this?
Well, I think, in this business, we always think that we have seen and done it all, and then something comes around and proves otherwise, and this was one of those things for me. I think, I've covered trials before, but this, for a trial to go almost 3 weeks is almost unheard of. It's definitely happened before, but it's very, very unusual. A lot of unusual things happened in this trial. The evidence, there was so much evidence that they presented. And then also the thing to think about, the defendants took the stand. That's not something I don't think I've ever seen in a trial. It's usually not recommended. Both of them took the stand. We heard from 3 of the victims in this case. That's unusual. And that was probably one of the most powerful moments in the trial. So just a lot of moments, I think, that really define this as a historical trial.
For sure. And so much emotional weight with this trial. I mean, just the subject matter involving, kids, being mistreated and just all of this coming about. I mean, talk about just like what this was like for you. And obviously, like when you're in this courtroom with the same people for weeks on end, you kind of, I'm sure, build some bonds there. You kind of see that emotion as it takes forth. I mean, I'm sure it's had really an impact on you.
And I think the timing of it all was interesting because we saw the videos, right? Whitefeather and Lance kept surveillance footage on these children. So we saw these videos play out in the courtroom before we heard from them. So we saw them so much, we've heard so much about them, and then we heard from them. And I think just
I gotta run and grab something. I had to stop it for a minute and make a comment about the fact that they kept all those videos on them and talked about them like that. That helped fry them. As creepy as it was that they surveilled them like that.
The gravity of that and how chilling that was, that will, stick with me forever, especially watching days and days and days of that footage, because we watched the 5 days of camera footage of them up until they were rescued from the Sissonville shed. So we watched their day-to-day life. It was sped up video, but we spent, I think, about 2 days in the courtroom going over that. So seeing that over and over again, and those were brought up again really throughout the trial, and then hearing from those kids describing what that was like. I mean, that like I said, that's something that I'll never forget.
How different is it covering a trial and being in something for the long run like this, as opposed to you do a lot of day turn stories as well as, more, long form pieces, but for you to be hyper fixated on this, what was that like?
I think there's one aspect of it where it's like, at least I know I get up every day and I know exactly what I'm going to be doing, and I know who I'm going to be seeing and what I'm going to be dealing with. But the other side of it, it can be taxing. It can be tiring when you're hearing about the same thing over and over and over again. So you just, you think about the preparation that went into this, how much the prosecutors have been thinking about this, how much the police officers involved, everyone who testified, how much preparation went into a trial like this. That's really what I've been thinking about during all this.
Yeah, and obviously, like when you cover anything, our job here as journalists is you got to remain unbiased, right? And so, and for you in court, you have the prosecution and the defense, and so talk about too, like for maybe people at home that aren't aware, it's like, our job is to just report what's going on. So therefore, you're just kind of listening to everything. You're conveying everything to us back here as we're keeping up to date. I'm sure that was obviously difficult to maintain for the long point as well.
Yeah, and I think the important thing with that is you have to be mindful of the language you're using, right? At this point, when they're in trial, they are still presumed not guilty. And so when you're talking about that,
Hey, TZ, no problem.
you have to say that this is what they're accused of. This is what this person said. Attribute everything that's said. Say this is what we watched in court. Not try to attach any kind of opinions on it. Not try to put blame anywhere. Just say, really recap what happened. And I think that's sometimes difficult, right? You want to think about, okay, I want to cover everything, but really I just have to lay out and make it clear to people what happened in there, because not everybody can go watch a trial, but I want to make sure everybody knows what's going on, in the courthouse and what's happening over there. And then, of course, when they're convicted, you can kind of change it up and say they have.
I really, really, really want to find a copy of this trial. If there's anyone listening that knows how, I tried for 3 days extensively surfing the internet to no avail.
Have been found guilty. They have done, the jury has found that they have done this. So I think that, you have to just keep in mind what you're saying and what you're conveying to people. And with this, with the kids involved, that was the thing to think about too. We couldn't use their names, we couldn't film them. So that was something that we always had to be cognizant of and mindful of throughout the trial.
Yeah, that was a very active conversation in the newsroom.
Sure do.
Whenever you were in the courtroom, we were back here saying, okay, these kids' faces can be shown, so we had to use a lot of blurring technology on our editors, to make sure we don't show their faces, make sure their names weren't ever said or recordings of their names weren't ever heard. So a lot of work behind the scenes to make sure we got that right. And looking ahead, I mean, what does this mean, for this situation moving forward? Obviously, like this case making history in Kanawha County and in West Virginia.
And one thing I wanted to say about that, this is the first time in state history where human trafficking was first charged. So just the charge alone was historical. And then to get a conviction, I mean, that is such a big deal. This is usually something that's handled at the federal level. And so to get something like this in circuit court, that's what made this trial so historic, because this law was just passed, human trafficking at the state level, in 2012. It was edited in 2017 to make it a little bit of a stronger law. So this is the one that really applied to White Feather and Lance. Had it not been...
Oops. If you were here earlier, this is what I was talking about. It's the first time in state history where human trafficking was charged, so the charge alone was historical. In 2012, like she said, the law was passed, but it was amended in 2017. It was edited. That's what made it easier for the White Feather and Lance to get a conviction. It's usually handled at the federal level, like she said, so that's where the historical comes in.
Edited in 2017, they probably never would have been charged with human trafficking. So this is the first time that this was ever first charged.
That's
and then, of
crazy.
course, the jury found that they were guilty of human trafficking.
Wow. Yeah, big case there for sure in the state and in the area as well. And so what are you working on today? Because I think finally you have something new that you're able to kind of focus your attention on, at least for the time being.
So I've been back on some of the water issues we're seeing.
Yeah, that's enough of that. Okay. What else do I have here? No. We don't want that one. I mean, it had stuff that I was going to read. I don't think I'm going to read it now because it basically all spoke for itself. But I did find, that's pretty much it for that stuff. But I did find, I think it was April that brought this up. I had talked about that boat crash, the woman who allegedly drove her car right into a kid's birthday party in Michigan. And, you know, actually a bunch of kids were unalived and right during her birthday party. Her name was Martha Chidester, but April reminded me that she just went to trial. I hadn't seen it till after. I found tons of clips on it, like the mom's testimony and everything. But I found just a clip. It's like 6 minutes long. I didn't see this one yet. I just found it when this was on. I was trying to find one that would sum it all up so it wouldn't be long. But this is where she, I guess it says she was guilty on all charges. So I don't know. I'm going to play that. If anyone wants to see a follow up on that, it's only 6 minutes long. Let me see if I could share it and get sound. So if maybe I'll put the link to that. I'll have to surf for it in my videos. So if there's anyone that missed that, if you want to watch that one, it was pretty nuts. I didn't see this yet. I listened to the mom's testimony earlier when I was taking a shower. That was pretty heartbroken. She literally woke up in a hospital with a choking on a ventilator tube and didn't even know what happened. You know what I mean? And somebody had to come in and tell her about her children, and that's just absolutely horrifying. She tried to say that she had a seizure because she had a disorder, but the woman was a big-time alcoholic. Her husband even moved next to the boat club that she drank at, moved close by, bought a house nearby it so she could drink and do her thing. I mean, that's how bad. She lived like I don't know, a couple blocks from the boat club where she crashed in Michigan. I forget what town now, but they'll probably say.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. I'm told that you've had a verdict. Is that correct?
Yep. She's a big time boozer.
You're the foreperson? Yep. Please stand for me and read me the verdict form. You're going to say, "We, the jury, find," and then you'll go through each count, please.
We, the jury, find as follows. Count 1, guilty of...
Actually, before I play this all, I know they just said on that guilty. Do you want to hear the mom's testimony only and then play this? I don't want to hold everyone and everything, but if we're just got nothing to do, I could play the mom's testimony. I saved it in my playlist. The mom's testimony is like 12 minutes long, so we could play that before we actually hear the charges. It's up to you guys. Or I could just do the charges and continue this one. So we can say, well, I already did the show about what I was talking about, Lori, but right now I switched to, I talked about a while ago, that woman, Martha Chidester, that she was drunk driving and smashed into a boat club where children were having a birthday party, and she unalived some children and hurt many people. She just hit the gas and floored it. And we seen video footage of her just blasting through that birthday party and just ran a bunch of kids and people over. But, so she's been locked up for a while, awaiting this trial, and I didn't know that the trial had already happened recently, but apparently she just got her charges, but there's clips we don't have to see the whole trial. The whole trial is available. I found that this morning too. I saved it, but that's a few hours, so it's like 2.5 hours or something, and that would be a whole different show. And I'm sure most of you that were into that case already watched that, but I'd have to go back to my playlist for a second if you want to see the mom's testimony, and then we can go. Oh, I got so many tabs open. I got to find my own channel again. Help me, I'm lost. Okay, 1 second. Where's my damn channel? Okay, here we are. So you could just say, yes in the chat if you want to hear the mom first. But I'm going to go to my playlist now while I have you guys vote, and if you want to hear the mom's testimony first. Because I think it would make more sense to hear her testimony before we hear the sentencing, you know what I mean? And I just had that pulled up. Let me see. Okay, yeah, the mother's talking about it and how she was affected and what happened to her. I think it's right here. It's like 12 minutes. Oh, 14 minutes, 14 and a half. I think it would make more sense if I played that first. It's more impactful, I think. So I'll play that since we're just chilling and I don't have anything to do. I don't have anything to friggin' do. Oh, damn. Yep. I'll link that after. I'm going to run and make another coffee real quick. Be right back. Hi, Ash. So this isn't even playing for you guys? I was just about to get my coffee and I looked at my phone and I'm like, it's not even sharing it. Okay, 1 second. Nobody told me in chat. I'm glad I looked at my phone. All right, let's see if we get sound.
And spell your last name for us.
Mariah Dodds, D-O-D-D-S.
Can you hear it now?
Thank you. Thank you, Judge. Miss Dodds, you're the mother of Zane, Alana, and Jaden Phillips.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
Where were you headed on April 20th of last year?
I was headed to a birthday party
Where was the birthday party being held?
at the Swan Boat Club,
Have you been to the Swan Boat Club before?
just the night before to help decorate.
What garnered you an invitation? Why were you invited?
I'm the little boy's godmother.
And that was because of your relationship with Kristen Sigler at the time?
Yes.
Do you know what time you arrived at the birthday party?
It was approximately at 2:08 p.m.
And did you come alone or who attended with you?
No, I had my mother, my 3 children, Jaden, Alana, Zane, and my nephew, Edward Smothers.
Once you got to the party, what did you do?
When we got there, we just explored what was all set up. There's multiple tables and games, a bounce house in the backyard, and the kids just roamed around and had fun.
At some point, did you tell the kids it was time to eat?
Yes.
And you didn't arrive till 2:05, so do you know roughly what time it was that you said it was time for lunch?
It was close by 2:50 p.m. because it was right after Happy Birthday was sang.
Okay. What is the last thing you can remember from the birthday party?
After they sang Happy Birthday, my kids got their food, they were eating, and eventually when they were done, within a few minutes, they ate pretty fast. We were gonna go outside back in the backyard to go on the jump houses, but I placed a cake pop in front of Zane and Alana so that way they would be able to get one before they all ran out. And that was the last thing I remember.
So you don't remember the crash at all?
No.
After the crash, what's the first thing you remember?
Waking up in the hospital.
Okay. Do you have any recollection of the boat club after the crash at all?
No, just, I remember trying to open my eyes and it was black, like I was asleep or something, and I heard like long distance voices. And it was just a few things that I heard, and then that was it. And then I woke up in the hospital.
You don't remember an ambulance ride or anything like that?
No.
The first time you woke up in the hospital, what was your condition?
I was choking on the tube that was in my throat.
You
And
had a intubation, a breathing tube down your
a
throat?
ventilator. And then I was asleep. And then I woke up again.
When you woke up and you were able to assess yourself, what did you realize had happened to you?
Well, when I opened my eyes, I seen I was in a hospital room. And at that point, I didn't have the ventilator down my throat and my wrists were free. They weren't strapped down. And I heard my sister next to me crying. And I asked her, why am I here? And she said there's been an accident. And it occurred to my brain that how I was in a building the last time I remember at a birthday party. And then I freaked out because it hit me, where's my kids at? And then that's when she told me that Jaden was, life flew to a hospital and Zane and Alana were no longer there.
And you're in the hospital.
Yes.
Do you know what position you were in at that time physically?
When she told me, I started to freak out. I wanted to jump up, but I couldn't. I was hooked up to so many wires and machines, and at that time I didn't feel no physical pain because of all the medication they were pumping through me.
Did they put you back to sleep again? Do you know?
Yeah.
At that time?
Yeah, it's like I tried to scream and then everything was black again.
At some point when you had an opportunity to gather yourself, were you able to learn what injuries you had suffered?
Yes.
What were those, Mariah?
I had a punctured lung, broken ribs, a broken shoulder blade, a hematoma on my pelvic. My chin was busted open. My lip was busted open. I had mouth injuries resulting in losing a tooth and nerve damage throughout my face because of my teeth.
Do you know, by the time you were able to wake up and comprehend all this, how long you had been in the hospital under sedation?
No, just of what my family told me.
It was days, though?
I didn't wake up till the next day after the accident. And I got released from the hospital 4 days after the accident.
When you went home, were you able to walk and move freely?
No.
What kind of impediments did you have when you went home?
I had to use a walker if I did get up. It was very hard to move around. I couldn't get into a vehicle for probably a month. And if I did, it was hard. it hurt severely. I couldn't sit straight up. I couldn't lay down, flat down. And it was just rough. I just sat there basically until I healed, until I made progress to move around. And I had physical therapy come to my home to work with me. And then that was helping. And then they sent me to outpatient therapy, and that it helped extremely.
And how long did that all take?
A couple months.
You said that you learned that your son Jaden had been life flighted to a different hospital.
Yes.
How long was Jaden in the hospital?
2 weeks.
Okay. When he came home, he eventually came home to your house?
Yes.
Were you able to care for him?
No.
At the time, how old was Jaden?
He was 11.
Okay. He's 12 now?
Yes.
Did Jaden receive any home care? I know you mentioned physical therapy for yourself.
Yes. He had physical therapy, occupational therapy, and then a regular nurse coming to the home.
Okay. Do you know what injuries he sustained?
Yes.
What happened to Jaden?
He had multiple broken bones that consisted of his wrist, his fingers. He had a broken pelvis, his legs. He had a big gash in the back of his head. He also had a punctured lung, broken ribs, and a concussion.
Did he have to have surgery?
Yes.
Do you know what part of his body he had to have surgery on?
His femur, his legs.
How long, well, first I'll ask this way. Jaden's not going to come testify today.
No.
Is Jaden able to walk and get around today?
Yes.
How long did it take for him to be able to do that?
Many months. I can't even give an exact time frame.
Mariah, you were able to bring a photo of Zane and a photo of Alana for the jury to see today. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Mariah, are those your children?
Yes.
Okay. No further questions, Judge.
Cross.
One moment. Very sorry. I'm sorry for your loss. I lost my son in September.
Okay, this part's really weird. I just got back from my coffee. I did see this earlier, and yes, Lori. It's really horrific. So this is her lawyer, Martha Chidester, the woman who caused the accident. This is her lawyer that took the stand, and now he comes up and he's crying, and it looks like he's really crying. And when he goes to sit down, just watch. I've never seen anything like this in court. This part made me, I don't know what's going on here. Because when he sat down, he was literally crying. He's got to represent her, but it's not really helping in cross-examination. I don't know. It's weird. So here goes this part again.
I lost my son in September.
He said he lost his son's mother.
He died peacefully. He was older. And every time I work on your case, I think you will. And I think your children. You have my deepest sympathy. And I'm human. I might be a defense attorney, but I'm human. And you seem like a much stronger person than me.
It's hard.
My prayers are with you and your family. I wish you the best. People keep telling me God has a plan. I guess that's what we gotta do. So I just wanted to come out of here for a minute and tell you, true heartfelt, that I feel very bad for you and your family. It's a club you don't want to belong to. And I don't have any questions for you. You've gone through enough in life. But
Judge, people appreciate
I'm
this
done.
level of
I'm done. Okay, thank you very much.
May she be excused? Yes, thank you, which means you're.
That's the woman right there. Did you hear they asked him to be excused? That was, I mean, I just haven't seen anything like that. It was kind of weird. It's like, you're her lawyer and you're up there crying for, I mean, it was weird. That was supposed to be crossed. I don't get it.
Hey, Bill, would you come up for a second, please?
Just give me both of those. We'll get them out of the camera. Nice on her. Nice on her. Thank you.
I didn't realize there were so many people that didn't know about this. I should find just the clip first of where you could see how fast she was going into the boat club, because it's actually shocking. Let me see if I can find that real quick. So it's hard to understand unless you see how friggin' fast she was going. I mean, I know in my area there's been plenty of people, and they're usually not to judge or anything, but they're usually elder, and they hit the gas. I don't know if they're trying to, if they panic and they think they're hitting the brake and they just floor the gas. That's what she did to the building. Right into the wing where the children's birthday party was. And a lot of the police that were working and everything, they had a hard time dealing with it, from what I heard. Like, a lot of them were really messed up having to, go to a scene like that, because there was just, like, victims everywhere. Now, let me go over here for a second so I can see if I can find that real quick. Oh, that's not the right one. Hold on one sec. All right, one sec. Yeah, over here. Just give me 1 second. It's been a while, because I think I talked about this like a year ago or 11 months ago or something like that. So I don't even remember what part of Michigan it was in, but... Oh, I found the clip. It's like a 24-second clip. Let me pull that up. Just for a little, put this into context, because it sounds like there's a lot of people that don't know about this. And it has been a lot. It's been longer than I remembered, so here we go. This is the camera from the boat club of her driving by and crashing. She's flooring it. She's flying. Look at the car. You see how fast the impact? Look at all the smoke and debris and dust. I think there were some other views too. Full speed. Right here. Look at how fast. Slam. Like, I don't know. She tried to use the defense that she had a seizure. She didn't have seizures that often. She was taking gabapentin, but she was also drinking with them. So, I can't remember her blood alcohol level, but obviously they always check for that shit. I know there was other views of it. Let me see what her blood alcohol was. I think this might be it. Oh, actually, I don't want to do the whole thing. I don't want to bore you guys.
Ms. Beecham. Good morning.
Good morning.
I thought
What do
this
you do
was
for a
like a
living,
couple
ma'am?
seconds. Let me see.
Currently, I am a supervisor in the toxicology unit at the Michigan State Police.
No, this might be better right here.
All rise. Circuit Court.
I can't play this. It's 53 minutes. I just wanted to see the part where she got arrested.
People of the state of Michigan versus Marcella Chester.
I'm trying to see if I could just pinpoint that. She left her house, which was right around the...
Right
Oh,
after
that's
the
another
crash.
thing. She pulled out of her driveway and backed into a car. I forgot
Where's
about that.
Don?
I think this will show it.
She wanted to know where her husband was.
Before she crashed into the boat club. She backs out of her driveway all decrepit like this and then slams in reverse and smashes into the car over there. See that? She moved the car. Did you see that shit in the upper right corner? She destroyed that car on her way before she goes flying that way.
And then continuing on.
Look at
her
how
way.
messed up her front end is. It's destroyed.
At the moment she crashed.
Oh,
into
okay,
that
cool,
truck,
Constance. I'll be
She
there.
had to know things were not
I'll panel hoe with you if you want.
right. But she continued on.
She was wasted.
She
I
continued
forgot
on.
that she had wrecked into that other car first. So let me... Where the hell was I? I didn't want to play the whole damn thing, so let me see. The main thing I wanted to do is see the... When she gets... Okay, the guilty sentence. That's what we want. Let me pull that up. Yeah, that's it. Since it's just like a review. But I linked it in the chat, the one I did 11 months ago. There's like 2 of them because I did a separate one. Because I couldn't believe when they put that $1.5 million bond, I couldn't believe she posted the bond and very quickly too. Alright. I'm only doing this. This is like, Constance, this is like 6 minutes. I just wanted to give like a review to people that... This wasn't even planned. I don't even have it in my title, but I just wanted to give review to people that were following this because it was like close to a year ago, and she just went to court. Can't
All right,
believe I
ladies and gentlemen,
forgot.
welcome
She
back.
slammed that car.
I'm told that you've had a verdict. Is that correct? All right. All right.
Oh, let me make sure. Can you guys all hear this? Can I get a yes if there's sound? Let me see. I know those kids didn't make it, but she injured a lot more people. I can't remember if there was another adult that did too pass away, Kaz, but she wrecked many people went to many hospitals from what I remember. There was just like bodies everywhere of injured people when they showed some of the inside clips. It was like a war zone in there. Because she went full force and it was a wing it was like a function room and it happened to be just where the birthday party was. Just terrible, man. And that poor mother, I just can't imagine waking up like that and being told that way. Okay. Yes.
You're the foreperson? Please stand for me and read me the verdict form. You're going to say, "We the jury find," and then you'll go through each count, please.
We, the jury, find as follows. Count 1, guilty of murder in the second degree of Alana Grace Phillips. Count 2, guilty of murder in the second degree of Zaid Isaac Phillips. Count 3, guilty of operating while intoxicated or operating while visibly impaired causing the death of Alana Grace Phillips. Count 4, guilty of operating while intoxicated or operating while visibly impaired causing the death of Zane Isaac Phillips. Count 5, guilty of...
I'm pausing it because these are all the victims' family right here. Everybody right here. They were all affected by this.
operating while intoxicated or operating while visibly impaired causing serious impairment of a body function to Mariah Lynn Dodds. Count 6, guilty of operating while intoxicated or operating while visibly impaired causing serious impairment of a body function to Edward Thomas Smothers. Count 7, guilty of operating while intoxicated or operating while visibly impaired causing serious impairment of the body function to Jaden Bryce Phillips. Count 8, guilty of operating while intoxicated or operating while visibly impaired, causing serious impairment of the body function to Leah Marie Stiff. And count 9, guilty of operating while intoxicated or operating while visibly impaired, causing serious impairment of a body function to Diane Virginia Medina.
All right, thank you. If you would put that back in the envelope and then just give it to my bailiff. Is this everyone's verdict? So say you won, so say you all? Yes. Do you wish me to poll? All right, I'm going to point at you. I'm not being rude. I just don't want to publish anybody's names, okay? So I'm going to start in the back row and say, is this your verdict? Is this your verdict?
Yes.
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 Is this your verdict? Is this your verdict?
Yes.
I'm going to come all the way here. Is this your verdict?
Yes.
Is this your verdict?
Yes.
Is this your verdict, sir?
Yes.
Is this your verdict?
Yes.
And is this your verdict?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for your hard work. I know that you worked hard all week. It's a long, exhaustive process. Takes it out of you physically. It takes you out emotionally. We really
Guilty on everything. I don't know about the sentencing though.
respect and appreciate your hard work. I'm going to ask for one more little favor. And if that is, you would go to the jury room and wait for me for a second so that I can come in and talk to you for just a second. Ms. Keene, would you come around here and join them as they go back into the jury room? All right,
Hell
thank
no.
you. I'll talk to you in a second.
I wonder if how she feels about
You
it.
can come, yeah. Go ahead. All right, Ms. Chidester, you've been found guilty by a jury of your peers, 2 counts of second-degree murder, 2 counts of operating under the influence and causing death, and 5 counts of operating under the influence causing serious bodily injury. You are to be sentenced in these matters on May 15th at 3 p.m. That will be in this courtroom with Judge Nichols' permission. You are remanded to the Monroe County Jail pending sentencing.
Oh, shit.
We are adjourned.
Just want to see if she shows any remorse when she goes away. Back to jail. Wonder where her husband is. Oh, she gotta walk by all of them. Look at that. She gotta walk by all of them. Oh, shit. Ooh. She's lucky nobody attacked her. Oh, okay, that concludes that. That was very interesting. You know, I don't usually see them walk them right by the victims like that. That was kind of risky. She literally had to face all of them, and I saw one of those parents give her the eyeballs. Damn. Okay, May 15th, the bitch gets sentenced, okay? We're gonna have to see that. I gotta try to write these things down so I don't miss them. I definitely want to see that and what she gets for that. Well, I guess that's gonna be concluding this for now. In my general awareness. See something, say something. Again, that part wasn't planned, but I heard about it randomly, so I wanted to kind of play that for people that did follow that case a while ago. About 11 months ago, I think. So I like to see a follow up like that. So I'm gonna try to remember May 15th. See what she gets. I don't know what kind of punishment she's gonna get. In the meantime, I'm gonna have to review the live that I did on that because I don't remember even what part of Michigan that was in, and I kind of want to, get refreshed on that before that happens. But I don't know who else is going live tonight. Like I said, I know some of you will go to Constance, some of you won't. She's having one. I don't remember what time. I think she said after this. I'm gonna be out from this, and I appreciate that. April, thank you again. And oh yeah, I guess we haven't seen any tiger sightings on the street. Is he still quit YouTube? I think still. There have been no tiger sightings. So I will just keep doing the general awareness, the real general awareness series every now and then to mix this shit up. It can be, I know it's not like a big target audience here, but like I said, there's been enough people that say they like the break from the other stuff. And I do too, because, there's shit going all around, all around us that's important. So I like to stop and do some stuff like that, even though it could be rough in this, but yeah. You know what? Actually, Emma, usually stuff like, if you notice historically, there's usually a medical event or something like that around that time. Oh, it's in an hour? Oh, he's doing one right now, or just altogether he's on there? Don't tell me it's on there right now. That's crazy if that's what it is. You can make it right now if you want, Constance. I'm finishing up right now. It's up to you if you want to change it. Nothing going on the streets, I don't think, so I think it's open. Or I haven't seen any notifications. But can you just let me know if he's literally on one right now? Or if you mean just in general? Before I hit my music. Because that's just funny. I think it's funny. Please let me know. Oops. 2-3 hours, okay. I don't know about the rest. Oh, okay, fair enough. All right then, I guess that's about it for now. Thank you for coming to General Awareness Series, and I'll see you all in the streets or something.
There's a monster under my bed, and at my window there's a dragon. I accepted the challenge, it turned me into a savage. I broke a promise to myself again. I don't know why I am so vulnerable. They try to help, but I won't let them in. I guess rock bottom's where I'm comfortable.
Thank you very much.
When most people would have panicked, I embraced the storm. I found beauty in what was damaged.
Thank you very much.
I'm not afraid of the boogeyman. Instead, I look at him like he's a friend. There's not a monster out there in the world. They're scarier than the one that's within. There's a creature in my closet. I can hear him rumbling around. The demon screaming in the distance creates such a humbling sound. The monster that's outside my window, he's like family to me now. The things that people are afraid of never let me down.
Not to say this no, but I'm hated so. My religious freaks say I'm the biggest beast and that I made it grow. When I spray this flow, I created mo. Creatures are like when I heat up the mic, I'm a breed of the night, but I'm tainted though. By the darkness I'm binded, I sparked it and shined it. They find it cause mine is woe. But that they label me a demon seed. Wanna disable me to see them bleed. Hinder me fatally and see them grieve, no. You would not believe the creature inside me. If you deceive, Khalifa's alive. We disagree when people define me or try to take his. Whatever the fuckery toward him, you don't wanna wake this. You forsake his, what is sacred, then it's over. No matter what your faith is, I'm a creature.
There's a creature in my closet. I can hear him rumbling around. The demon screaming in the distance creates such a humbling sound. The monster that's outside my window, he's like family to me now. The things that people are afraid of never let me down.
Yeah, I managed to get myself in trouble, all of this pain. Yeah, I'm damn in the double dose of liquor's always to blame. If I could keep myself sober, I keep my hands to myself. I take a shot and it's over, that's how I end up in hell. I hope I don't pass it down to my offspring. They get everything from their daddy, feel like I'm addicted to all things. There's no reason to change, gone too far now. And I'm stuck in my ways, back at the bar now. They say I'm a flirt and they right, I ain't perfect, alright. So when I'm thirsty and perking and purposely searching for something that's hurting me so I just can't pack up and go, I just back out of it slow, that's how it go. I like to back out the hole, what next like I don't know. Okay. I think you be laughing at me, hands be grabbing at me. Feel like God let it happen till we dab it blasphemy and these be a dab it naturally. Okay, yeah. I think I better let it go. Either that or I gotta let it know. I can't do that.
There's a creature in my closet. I can hear him rumbling around. The demon screaming in the distance creates such a humbling sound. The monster that's outside my window, he's like family to me now. The things that people are afraid of never let me down.
I'm gonna be posting it.
Find me this video. Smell that! This is your face, bitch! Smell that part!
Oh,
you smell it! Smell it!
oh my God! Here he goes. Don't hang up, bitch. She hung up again.
What the fuck?
You are so lame. Whoever's up having a fucking blast tonight. I'm having a blast. You guys are fucking lame. You can talk all this shit, but when somebody confronts you and you're calling their phone, dude, you can't talk to them directly.
Yeah, hide in the bushes.
Bunch of animals, they belong there.
Monkeys.